and taking the time to join us.
Thank you.
Thank you for having us.
Yes.
So there's so many really exciting releases this week. We're going to start with Margaux's book, which is the second book in the Eglinton Night series, and it's The Night of the Broken Heart. And I want to hear all about the book, and then I also want to hear all about the setup for the book with the ladies and everything, because the ladies' gang I found incredible.
Oh yeah, it was so fascinating. I loved it. When I found out, I mean, I should have known this, but I had to read it to really get it. Was that when you put a whole bunch of people in one area, you're going to attract some unscrupulous characters, and that's what happened at the Eglinton tournament. Apparently, a lot of the swell gang of London came down, fully intent to just pick everyone's pocket dry. And so I thought, well, yeah, I've never written about a female pickpocket before who perhaps has a seedy past. So I wanted to have fun with that and just create someone who was not from the aristocracy and just was kind of living day by day, trying to get through as best she could. And I had a really fun time. So to just sort of overview, Miss Amelia Driver is our heroine, and she's a part of Molly's gang in London, and they're just this really connected, smart, savvy women's group. And she goes down there trying to make a fortune for the group. And one thing leads to another. She picks the wrong pocket, and she gets caught by Viscount Barrington, who's the opposite of her, very set in his ways, widower, very, strong, silent type. And the whole book is just about how they sort of maneuver around each other and just sort of work out each other's kinks and learn throughout the process about who they are and what they really want in life. I think is always kind of fun. So, yeah.
Yeah, it sounds fascinating. And I was watching your post in the readers group, and you were talking about taking up a fund for in case someone got in case one of the women was hanged, so that somebody would take care of their children. I thought, commitment.
It was wonderful. I mean, when I read like all these like rules they have in like this gang, I based it off on the 40 Thieves, which is the biggest women's gang in London at the time. Actually, its heyday was a little bit later, probably like the late 1800s, and went all the way, probably pre-World War II. So they were, they knew what they were doing. And it was like a business for them, and they had to pay dues, and they took care of each other. And, if someone got pinched, then they took care of each other's kids. And the opposite side of that is once you were in for good. It was hard to get out. It was very Godfather-esque in that respect. But yeah, there was this really, what did women have back then? Not much, but they had each other. Yeah. And it was cool that they just kind of worked together. When I saw that, I was like, I can work with that.
That's the completely practical nature of somebody's got to take care of the kids,
Right. No, yeah. I mean, yeah, it could happen. You could get hanged or sent off to Australia, which a lot of people thought was worse. So, so yeah, you got to take care of those kids and pay for lawyers' fees and yeah, they were ruthless. They sometimes, like I've read accounts where they were more ruthless than the men, like they would hide razor blades in their hands. And if they were stopped, they, wouldn't hesitate to cut your face.
Boy.
Yeah, no, they were tough. But on the other hand, you gotta live. And they were just trying to make things happen for themselves. And at the end of the day, yes, I should never applaud a life of crime, but I really do applaud their ingenuity because no one else was looking out for them. So I appreciate it.
And I can see that making a way for yourself where there is not an obvious one already made for you.
Right. Yeah. There's prostitution, right? There's always prostitution. And a lot of these women came from that. But on the other hand, a lot of them didn't want to go that route. So when you have little options, you do the best with what you have.
Yeah.
And yeah.
So what were the challenges of writing a heroine who comes from that background? Because I think that's so counter to what we normally read in our heroines in historical romance.
Well, the first thing is I didn't want her to be apologetic, right? I mean, she grew up on the wrong side of the tracks. 99.9% of us did not grow up with a silver spoon in our life, and I didn't want her to feel bad about that. I mean, she knew more than anyone that this was her life, and she was good at it, and she was proud that she was good at it, and that's, as a female, I like that.
Yeah.
So that was the trick. One, I wanted the audience to like her, despite her questionable motives at times. But also, I needed him to recognize that in her, and to then appreciate what that gives you in a partner. When you don't have someone looking to you for everything and to answer all their problems and to find their own self-confidence, I mean, what does that give to you? I mean, that opens you up to a different world, and so I really like this relationship. And in fact, a couple of days ago, I reread the book, because we write these books months ago, and I'm sitting there like, yeah, I like this. I like this more. Yeah, so I'm really proud of it, and I hope people like it. It's fun.
Good. Well, I love that idea, and I love the idea of a heroine that has tenacity and her own agency. I think that's something that's really compelling to read. Wonderful. So this is the second book in the series. How many more nights do we get?
There are 4 altogether, and I'm kind of playing with a novella right now, but I want to talk to the powers that be about that. But yeah, I'll keep writing as long as people want me to. I can always come up with something.
Fun. Well, if you're listening now and you haven't had a chance to pop into the readers group, you should definitely pop in and read about the women's gangs, because it's really exciting. And all the authors who have releases during the week will do takeovers in the readers group during the week on their release day. The posts stay up, so you can scroll through. You can scroll through as many as you want and read all kinds of interesting tidbits about the books and the background to the books. If you're not a member of the readers group, you can find it on the Dragonblade page. And anybody's welcome. We'd love to have as many people as want to come read with us. So Deb, you also have a release this week. It's also book 2.
Yes.
And there's a death, because it's Death in the Druid's Grove. So there's no ambiguity about what we're getting into. And it's the second in the Kieran Levitt mystery series.
Yeah, it's a Victorian set mystery series, the Kieran Levitt mystery series. Those are the last names of my sleuth couple, accidental sleuths, kind of. And yes, there will be a death, but it is also a slow burn romance over the series, which I'm enjoying. This, as the first book, is kind of the introduction. They meet each other. They're in the middle of a murder mystery. There is definitely appreciation for each other, and actually a really deepening friendship. But the second book, they've been together a little while longer, and I really have more room and scope for the romance to start to blossom. So I'm enjoying that. So yeah, the first book was set, it was called A Killer in the Crystal Palace, and it was set during the Great Exhibition of 1851. And in the second book, the exhibition is winding down. And so their friendship and their partnership has kind of been based around that big event. So now they kind of have to navigate the waters as that ends, and what are we going to do going from here? And they both have feelings for each other. One of them is very ready to admit that, and the other one is not, for reasons. So I've had a really, really good time with this couple. And I'm really enjoying the chance to dive really deep into their characters.
Because we get to stay with them for several books.
Yes. Yeah, I get to keep in their heads and in their stories. So that's been really nice. I've really been enjoying that. So.
Well, it'll be interesting to see what happens with the relationship when the forced proximity part is not forced anymore.
Exactly.
I loved the kind of mutual respect in the first book. For their abilities, even when the book starts out, it doesn't start out with her in a helpless position. It starts out with her as a craftsman in her own right, skilled and competent and a very worthy heroine to
And I think that in Victorian times, it takes a special hero to appreciate that, right?
Mm-hmm.
Just like with Margaux's book, right? It's got to be a guy with an open mind, with he's got issues of his own, but he is impressed with her and not afraid to show it, which I love in a guy, right?
Yeah. Yeah. And right from the beginning too, like there's none of that hemming and hawing and having to earn your way in,
Right. And I have to say, I was super interested in what you were saying, Margaux, because I have a secret society in this book, and it's almost the research on it was very similar to your girl gang situation, but it was because there were actual Druid like clubs in Victorian London, but they were more it was more like an insurance co-op kind of thing. They banded together people with low wages, and they would band together and form this club and pay their dues, and they would socialize, yes, and they did include Druidic elements in some of their ceremonial things, but honestly, it was for almost the same thing. It was for if you die, who's going to pay for the funeral, who's going to take care of your wife and kids, and it was almost the same kind of thing. So I started, and those were very, very popular in the Victorian times. There was they had grand chapters, and then they had smaller chapters, even throughout England. So but there was a great schism. What they broke apart, in the 1830s. So I based my secret society as something that had begun there, but they kind of drift their own way because they're very much more interested in the Druidic elements. Mm-hmm. They like the aspects of the Druids they were information sharers, right? They taught the people, they shared stories and music. And even though they never wrote it down, but there was a very strong, tradition of them teaching. And that's really kind of the focus of this secret society, is like exploring science and music and art and making sure that it's available to people. Mm-hmm. So I had fun making up my own secret society, and unfortunately somebody in there dies. So
well, we need new title if that wasn't the case.
Yes. Well, I think Evelyn said it. Well, Evelyn said it perfectly, Deb. I mean, practical, right? Women, first and foremost, they can care about science and art and have these clubs like you're saying, but at the end of the day, women have to be practical. And I think that's where that all stems from,
Yep. Yes. So many times, I think women are the ones that are facing the pragmatic realities of life.
The hungry people look to us, right from the very beginning, the hungry people look to us. There are children and families, and, and so like, I think back to our oldest stories, that's you can't get away from the logistics of living.
Right. So I've had a really good time with this series. I love exploring London. There's some, I get a chance to go from the ballrooms to the rookeries, so it's full gamut.
And how many more Keir Levitts do we have to look forward to?
There's one more coming in August, and then fingers crossed, I do believe there will be more. So after that, I love characters that you can get to know and like that you can stay with for a long time. And I'm a huge Miss Scarlet and the Duke fan. So when we saw the series, we were like, oh, and every time one of the covers, every time we get to see one of the covers, it's like, this is the prettiest cover ever. And the covers are so gorgeous. So I'm so thankful, grateful. They're just beautiful. So, and I'm trying to make sure the insides are as beautiful as the outsides.
I think you're succeeding so far. So. Well, Jessica, this is your first Dragonblade release this week, and it's the Scottish Duke, and it's the Valor and Honor series. It's book 1.
That is correct. Yes. The Valor and Honor series is pretty much like an investigative arm of Whitehall. because
cool.
right after the Battle of Waterloo, most of the spies are still on the continent, and all these crimes are being committed on British soil. So I have my men, the Valor and Honor investigators, investigating the crime of assassination. The Duke of Rathdrum, Ewan Drummond, his whole family, his father and his 3 brothers were assassinated, murdered.
Oh my goodness. That's not just one, that's all.
All of them, yes. Off the page death scenes, I've written too many
I
death
like
scenes.
those better.
Yes. And then he meets the spy master, who I've named Lord Tarleton. And he is pretty much the head honcho of all the spies for the crown. And they find that there is a rival network in the underground of Edinburgh where it's called the Shadows. For no other name would they all are in the shadows of every big port city in the UK or Great Britain. And Lord Tarleton has a niece who is a code breaker and a code writer.
Oh, cool.
And so, based on me a little bit, I compose theme songs for my books. And so she uses her music, her piano work, to write the code. So, depending on what is said, depends on where her music takes her. So
wow.
she publishes the music under a false name because women at that time were not allowed to do stuff like that because it just wasn't done.
Mm-hmm.
So our heroine, Matilda Walsh, is perpetually late for everything.
I have sympathy.
Yes. That is not me. I am 15 minutes early for everything, so I'm more like the Duke than I am the heroine. But she is, of course, the niece of Tarleton, and she works under him and gets put together with our Duke, and they go and try to find who the killer is. So it takes them up to a Scottish estate just east or west of Edinburgh, and you find out there's a plot twist there. I'm not going to ruin it for anybody. But they find who the murderer is. But in the meantime, there's bagpipes. Bagpipes at the time are illegal because anything to do with Scottish tradition was banned. If you were found to have bagpipes or kilts or tartans, you were hanged for being a traitor to the crown. So it is their alarm system. If somebody breaches the front door of the estate or the gate at the entry, that bagpipe goes off and it scares our heroine half to death. Literally, she faints. And it's just a lot of fun. There's 3 books so far in the series. I'm just finishing up the last one or the second one right now. But yeah.
So can you tell us a little bit about the other books in the series?
The second one is called An Honorable Viscount. James and Margaret are the characters. James is a former Highland Dragoon.
Mm-hmm.
So he was at the Battle of Waterloo and nearly lost a leg. Margaret is a spy under Tarleton.
Oh, exciting.
And they get put together because they need to find a link between the plot twist of the first book.
Which we're not going to talk about.
Which we're not going to talk about because that would ruin the whole thing.
No spoilers.
But they get put together, and she's a singer. So Matilda and Margaret um, do a little duet at the beginning of the book. Robert Burns' song "My Love Is Like a Red, Red Rose" just came out a couple years earlier, so it's like, hey, I'm gonna use it. So there's a song in each book that's based off of a traditional song. So the first book has the Baron of Brackley. It's the story of one of, oh God, I don't remember the clan anymore, Douglas, and how he was murdered in his castle by his rival. So even though it's kind of a sad song, that is the song I put in there because it was the cook's favorite song. So, and then hers was Robert Burns. But there's a lot of up in Scotland. Eventually, I will make my way over there myself, but as of right now, I haven't been. But I do have Scottish roots, so I felt, hey, let's do some Scottish stuff.
And you play the bagpipes, I think you should
do
mention.
play the bagpipes.
You play the bagpipes. Oh, wow.
Yeah. I've been playing them since I was 18, so I'm not going to do the math there.
We don't do that past a certain age. It's just not kind.
I played for a punk band, so that was
Oh
kind of
my
cool.
goodness.
Awesome.
That is so cool.
Yeah. Yeah, it was fun. It was fun while it lasted. I got my 15 minutes of fame every year on St. Patty's Day. And then after that, I'm an introvert. There's only so much I can handle when it comes to being in front of people. And so maybe 2 or 3 shows a year I did, but I play for church occasionally and play Irish whistle and flute, and I play my piano, and there's just a lot that I do with music, and that's why I put it into my books.
Yeah, that makes
So
sense.
it makes it fun.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
That makes sense.
So the last book, oh goodness, It Happened One Night, spelled Knight. It is about Phineas, and I do not remember Edith.
I love it when authors can't remember their characters' names because I feel so much better.
Well, I have so much stacked against me as it is. I have a B12 deficiency, and that if my B12 levels are too low, I don't remember anything. Massive brain fog. So I have my little cheat sheet on my phone.
You gotta work with what you gotta work with.
Exactly. Sometimes I can't remember to do things, and sometimes it's just, yeah, it's hard to work with, but I do it. So far 2 books in a year, so I'm more than what I normally do for my self-publishing. So I'm pretty proud of myself. But the third book is about Phineas and Edith. Edith is his next door neighbor. And I haven't really plotted out the entire book yet. But the
Early days.
early days in it, yes. He rescues her from being ravaged by this person. Later to find out it is the leader of the shadows named the priest.
Oh.
And so all I know is the beginning is that scene. And the end is a Christmas, because it's going to be released right around Christmas time. And the villain is going to be caught on Christmas.
Well, that's enough to know to get started with the book. So,
Yeah, I know the beginning and the end.
So on that note, do the rest of you do you plot your books out? I'm thinking, Deb, that with a mystery series, you have to have a pretty pretty significant idea of where you're going and what the touch points are and stuff. Do you plot, or are you finding out as we are?
When you talk about writing, people ask, are you a plotter or are you a pantser? Which means, do you plot everything out ahead of time before you start writing, or do you just start writing and just go by the seat of your pants? And I always answer, in fact, I do a talk on this, I am a plotzer. I am hybrid. I have to have certain points to aim toward, but I also need complete freedom in between them. So that is just how my process works, how my brain works. Sometimes, and I really do need that freedom, because sometimes the stuff that comes up in there, I never thought of ahead of time, and suddenly it's there, and I'm like, oh my gosh, that was so important. Why didn't you think of that ahead of time? It's the key to everything.
But that's part of the fun of the discovery during writing too. I think that's one of the things that keeps you in the chair.
Right.
You know?
Yes. It's when that magic happens, right? It's like, oh, yay.
Yeah.
So, but yes, I'm a plotzer, but I do, especially with the mystery, I have to have a very good idea of, of why somebody has died. And I don't always know exactly how they're going to get caught, but I know what the murder is about. So I'm in the middle.
What about you, Margaux?
Same, total hybrid. I mean, I go in thinking, I must be insane. I go in it a week before I start writing. Every time I'm going to plot, every day I'm going to plot, I'm going to work on it. And I'm lucky if I get like 50% plotted. And I'm pretty happy about that. I know the beginning, I know the end. I know where I need to hit along. I know my guideposts. In between there, I go day by day. And I like, I just got done mowing the lawn, and I'm like sitting there mowing the lawn, and I'm like having like inner dialogue in my head. And honestly, that's where it happens, just doing like mundane house chores.
It's
like,
true.
Yes.
Driving for me, like,
Right.
I mean, the wheels hit the road and I am in 1800s. I mean, sometimes I wonder how I get from point one to point A to point B.
Like full on dialogue. I'll play like two characters. People must think I'm just crazy when they look through my window, because I'm like, okay, like talking to myself. I'm like, I hope they think I'm singing. But then I'll go home and like write it down real quick. But yeah, that's how I do it. I wish I was a plotter. My gosh, my life would be so much easier if I was a plotter.
You would miss the magic, I think.
I think you're right. There's that magic. Like you said, like sometimes I'll just be writing and like a sentence will come out and I'll be like, yes, that is the point of the whole book right there. And so, yeah, I mean, it's cool. It's like 2% of the time you have that just euphoria of like, that was wonderful. And then the rest of the time you're like, come on. But it's worth it. It's awesome. It works.
Jessica, do you get your characters first, or do you get your story first? What comes to you first?
Sometimes both. It just depends on the story. Like for these ones, I wrote the proposal in 15 minutes for all 3 books.
Oh, wow.
And then the names came with the story. I have one book that I haven't published yet, self-published or through that the name came first. And it was not a historical. And I'm sitting here going, okay, so what is it? What's the story behind this person? So it just sparked, and all of a sudden, a month later, I have a full 75,000 word novel for this person. And I'm sitting. But sometimes it's not always that way.
So I'm not sure. Can anybody hear me?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
So my video is frozen. I don't know why.
Oh, no, you're moving on ours. You're fine.
Oh, okay. All right.
Yeah.
Just on mine. Okay.
Yeah. No, you're absolutely fine. Well, ladies, it was delightful to talk to you today. If you want to come back so we can talk about ladies' gangs more often, or I love that. I love the idea of a druid farm bureau that takes care of everybody.
I know.
That's really exciting too. And I'm really anxious to to read more about the spies and the shadow too. So
Yeah, thank you.
there are so many good things to find out this week. Like every week, I'm going to say that Dragonblade books are the very best deal on their pre-order and release day. So you want to make sure you grab them right away. If you don't get them right away, you can always read in Kindle Unlimited. And I will make sure I put the links in the comments. And Deb's books release wide. So if you want them anywhere other than Amazon, you got to get on it right now. Don't wait.
Yes.
Go right now.
If you read on Apple or Kobo or Barnes and Noble or anywhere else, get it now.
Now is not the time to hesitate. Now is the time to act. And then I will also make sure I pop the links for the books in the comments of the video so that you can find them if you haven't found them already.
Awesome.
Ladies,
Thank
thanks so
you.
much for taking the time to talk to us.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Bye.